right, you guys. We're here finishing up Randolph County. Well, I don't even know if we'll finish it on this one. We're going to be doing more markers in the Chester area that weren't related to Popeye. And we're going to catch those today. And we'll see how we do. We may be finishing up Randolph County with this one. Or it may take one more for Randolph County. So buckle up. Let's go. All right, we're here at the American Legion in Chester, Illinois, and this marker says "For God and Country." It's dedicated in memory of those of our community who made the supreme sacrifice in the Great Wars. May they rest in peace. And this is Alva Courier, Post 487, the American Legion. And they've got a cannon there and the raised flag. We are back here at the American Legion in Chester, Illinois. This is the Eternal Flame, a torch of freedom dedicated in memory of all war heroes, living and dead, for devoted service to their country by Alva Courier Post number 487 American Legion and American Legion Auxiliary. Hey, we're here in Chester, and this is dedicated to the memory of those who died in military service to our nation and in honor of all who served in the armed forces of the United States of America. Those honored here gave the last full measure of devotion. Let us not forget, freedom is not free. Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. All right, we are here outside the VFW in Chester, Illinois. And the marker is the spirit of 1776, still lives in America, honor the dead by helping the living, veterans of foreign wars, 1976. Okay, this marker is still outside the Randolph County Courthouse, and it is for the Statehood of Illinois. 1818, history began in Randolph County. 2018, I guess, is when this was put up. The village of Kaskaskia was established as April 1703 by the French in Illinois country of New France. Kaskaskia is recognized as the oldest seat of organized government west of the Allegheny Mountains. On April 18, 1818, the United States Congress issued a proclamation authorizing the people of the Illinois Territory to draft a constitution for admission into the Union and establish Kaskaskia as their capital. The Constitution was adopted on August 26, 1818, and statehood was granted on December 3, 1818. Early officials of the United States government and the government of Illinois were from Kaskaskia in Randolph County. The notable residents were several members of the United States House of Representatives, the first senator from Illinois, members of the Supreme Court, the first governor of Illinois, Shadrach, and the first lieutenant, Governor Pierre Menard. Named in recognition of the historic gift King Louis XV, sorry, I had to remember my Roman numerals there, bestowed to the Church of Kaskaskia in 1741 the Liberty Bell of the West Chapter, National Society Daughters of the American Revolution. It dedicates this memorial to their Revolutionary War patriots and preservation of the history of Randolph County. Okay, this is the stone cottage. This is circa 1850. And here it is. And if we go up here and look at the marker itself, Stone Cottage, 1850, on Lot 20, deeded to John and Samuel Liebarger, descendants of Revolutionary War patriots Ludwig Liebarger and Jean-Baptiste Montreal. This is called the Weister House. Right there, Weister House. Circa 1859, has been listed in the National Register of Historic Places. So there we go. And it's really, really neat. Okay, this marker is for the Chester Bridge, 1941 construction. Picture in 1938, plans began in Chester to build a bridge spanning the Mississippi River. The construction started in 1941 and was completed in 1942 at a cost of $1,385,000. The total length of the bridge was 2,826 feet, with two 670-foot center spans. And it talks about some disaster, a stormy night, and the bridge went down, and they were able to stop traffic, and no one was injured. And then it took 2 years to rebuild the bridge, and it was reopened in 1946. So 1944, there was a tornado, destroyed the bridge, and it was repaired and reopened in 1946. The Mississippi, the mighty Mississippi. The Mississippi River Basin has a river network that gathers water from 31 states and 2 Canadian provinces. And I'm not going to read all of these specs. It talks about its widest point, where the river drops, how long it is, 2,345 miles long from its source to its mouth. The source in Lake Itasca, Minnesota is small enough to step over. Cool. And then the Army Corps of Engineers maintains a minimum channel 300 feet wide by 9 feet deep for commercial vessels. And it talks about all of the different things about the watercraft that their maximum downstream speed for a towboat is 13. And then 36 miles of the Mississippi River run along the western border of Randolph County. And we're standing at mile marker 109.5, which is 990.5 river miles from New Orleans, Louisiana. Okay, this marker is for the flood of 1993. There's a picture there. It shows the bridge during the 1993 flood. And to the left is Chester's pump house covered with water. And there's an insert of the photograph shows the river at normal level. Mark Twain said, "The Mississippi cannot be tamed, curbed, or confined. You cannot bar its path with an obstruction which it will not tear down, dance over, and laugh at." The bottom land in front of you, here it is, you see, was flooded from the Chester Bluff to the Missouri Bluff, a distance of over 10 miles. The flood stage at Chester is normally 27 feet. During the flood, the Mississippi River reached a maximum stage of 49.74 feet. Wow. Over 1,000 of the 1,300 levees were breached or overtopped, displacing 70,000 people. And it talks about the damage and how the bridge was closed for at least 68 days. And people had to drive to St. Louis or Cape Girardeau to cross the river. And not only was it considered the most destructive, it was of the longest duration. Flood stage in Chester was exceeded for 186 days between April and October of 1993. And I remember this. Of course, I'm old enough that I would. It's not been that long ago, and I remember it and seeing the pictures. We actually tried to drive down here and get some photos, but there is still lasting effects from this flood all along the Mississippi. So that's the flood of 1993. We've seen these two before. We are at Lewis and Clark in Illinois on November 27th, 1803, Meriwether Lewis, William Clark, and their party camped on Horse Island, just opposite this place, at the confluence of the Kaskaskia and Mississippi rivers. The next morning, Lewis left them to travel by land. Clark and the men pushed on to Kaskaskia via the Mississippi River. Lewis and Clark Expedition, 1803-1806, Chester, Randolph County, Illinois. The town of Chester, Illinois, sprawls on the eastern bluffs overlooking the November 27, 1803 Horse Island campsite of Captain Lewis and William Clark on the west bank of the Mississippi River near its confluence with the Kaskaskia River. The Corps of Discovery expedition crew knew that 6 miles ahead were the garrison of Kaskaskia, more recruits and supplies. Clark noted in his journal, November 28, 1803, past the mouth said river, Kaskaskias, at 8:30, the highlands make near the Mississippi below the mouth of said river a bold and rocky shore. Future travelers found the highlands near the water highways a comfortable place to settle. Chester became the county seat of Randolph County, Illinois in the 1844 election and hosts the eastern side of the Chester Bridge, which is Route 51, over the Mississippi River. The bridge bisects Horse Island and is the only bridge crossing in the Mississippi River between Cape Girardeau and East St. Louis. It replaced the ferries that transported the families following the trail of Lewis and Clark to the west. Many stayed in Chester, prospering with the advent of the castor oil press in the First General Store, the Coal Milling Company, the International Shoe Company, Prim Hosiery Mill, Gilster Mary Lee Company, Menard Correctional Center, and its statue of Popeye that is a tribute to Chester's native son, Elsie Seeger, a world-renowned cartoonist. And we're here in Chester at the cemetery, and we got a couple of markers here. The first one is for Governor Shadrach Bond from 1773 to 1832. He was Shadrach Bond was the first governor of Illinois, born November 24th, 1773 in Fredericktown, Maryland. He came to Illinois in 1794 and farmed at New Design. In 1805, he was elected to the Indiana Territorial Assembly, where he was instrumental in creating the Illinois and Indiana, yeah, that would be weird, and Indiana boundaries. Bond was elected to Congress in 1812 as the first territorial delegate from Illinois. He served in both the 12th and 13th Congresses. In 1818, Bond was elected governor. During his term, the capital was moved from Kaskaskia to Vandalia, and a state banking system was established. And there's his burial site right there. And over here, still in the cemetery, is Elias Kent Kane. Elias Kent Kane, architect of the state's first constitution, was born in New York in 1794. Kane studied law and began his practice in Tennessee. In 1814, he moved to Kaskaskia, where he was appointed a judge of the Illinois Territory. Active in politics, in 1818, Kane was a delegate to the first state constitutional convention. He dominated the convention, which framed a constitution that allowed the retention of slavery. Governor Shadrach Bond appointed Kane as the first Secretary of State. A Jacksonian Democrat, Kane was elected to the United States Senate in 1824, where he served until his death in 1835. And he is buried right here behind the sign. All right, we're still down on the waterfront area in Chester, but this marker is for Thomas Mather from 1795 to 1853. Thomas Mather was born in Simsbury, Connecticut in 1795. His father, William Mather, fought in the Revolutionary War and was a direct descendant of Cotton Mather, the New England minister associated with the Salem witch trials. Thomas Mather migrated to the village of Kaskaskia in 1818 and quickly became a business and political leader, advocating for the building of a steamboat landing at the confluence of the Kaskaskia and Mississippi rivers. Smith's Landing, later renamed Chester, grew and thrived. Mather served 4 terms in the Illinois House of Representatives, 2 terms in the Illinois Senate, and 1 term as Speaker of the House. A strident abolitionist, Mather participated in public debates over Illinois' Free State Constitution and helped keep slavery out of Illinois. Mather's many commercial ventures included building a warehouse on this site in 1830, the first floor walls of which are still intact. Mather moved to Springfield in 1835 and built a home on what became known as Mather Hill. Here he entertained dignitaries such as Dorothea Dix, the mental health reformer who lobbied for a state asylum in the 1840s, and Cassius M. Clay, the Kentucky abolitionist who spoke on Mather's lawn and was heard by a young Abraham Lincoln. When Lincoln died in 1865, Springfield leaders picked Mather Hill as the site for the proposed Lincoln tomb. Mary Lincoln overruled them and chose Pastoral Oak Ridge Cemetery instead. 2 years later, the Mather Hill site was chosen for the new Illinois state capitol. So this is the building that sits here now, and this is part of it is original. The first floor of the brick part over there, I would say. Well, that's pretty cool. This is acknowledging the port of Chester, Illinois, welcoming Mississippi River travelers since 1829. Here we are on the shores of the Mississippi River, and we're right down here in Chester. We have some markers. This one is for the railroad. It says the railroads were part of everyday life. Up to 14 passenger and freight trains passed through Chester each day on 3 railroads. A popular means of transportation was the dinky, a self-propelled motor car for short and low volume routes. Since all tracks were at street level, flooding of the rails was common. In the 1950s, buildings on both sides of the street were raised, and the railroad tracks were moved to their current location on the levee. And there they are. Okay, let's look at these other 2 markers. That was a lot. So listen to Chester's historic riverfront. Imagine early Chester and its bustling businesses along the riverfront. Hotels, restaurants, a machine shop, and several large stores lined both sides of the street. The landmark, known as the St. Louis Flats, on the bluff side of the railroad tracks, is the only remaining original building. I'm not sure which one of those that is. Oh. Okay, and now we're looking at the riverboats. Showboats traveled up and down the river, bringing plays and music to Chester. A band marched up the hill to play at the courthouse or in town. Residents were invited to attend plays performed on board. And interestingly enough, we were talking to a resident while we were filming at one of the other locations, and she said there would be like 14 riverboats coming up and down the river during the season this year, so that'd be really cool. Chester-Kaskaskia, Illinois. Shadrach Bond, first governor of Illinois from 1818 to 1822, is buried in Evergreen Cemetery in Chester. The first recorded settler in the area was John McFerrin, who purchased land in 1817, but Samuel Smith, who settled here in 1830, is considered the founder of Chester. Formerly known as Smith's Landing, the community was renamed after Chester, England. The town was a river port for the export of such local products as castor oil, flour, and meat during the mid-19th century. It became the county seat in 1848 and was incorporated as a city in 1855. Kaskaskia, founded in 1703 as a Jesuit mission, became a prominent French village. During the French and Indian War, 1754 to 1763, between France and Britain, Fort Kaskaskia was erected on the bluffs near the settlement. By the Treaty of Paris in 1763, Kaskaskia came under British control. On July 4, 1778, George Rogers Clark captured the Kaskaskia settlement, and the area became a part of Virginia. Kaskaskia served as Illinois territorial capital from 1809 to 1818, and as the first state capital from 1818 to 1820. When the capital was moved to Vandalia, Kaskaskia declined in importance. Mississippi floods from 1844 to 1910 gradually destroyed the old settlement, and the area is now Fort Kaskaskia State Park. Sites of interest include the Garrison Hill Cemetery, containing a monument to the pioneers, the home of Pierre Menard, first lieutenant governor, which is preserved as a state memorial, and the Kaskaskia State Memorial on Kaskaskia Island, containing the Liberty Bell of the West. Okay, this marks the George Rogers Clark campsite. In the third year of the American Revolutionary War, Lieutenant George Rogers Clark and his army of 170 Virginians set out from Fort Massac in Metropolis on their way to liberate the town of Kaskaskia from British control. On July 3rd, 1778, Clark's army crossed the Old State Ford near Welch and established its fifth and final camp on the west side of St. Mary's River. On July 4th, Clark's army marched to a staging point at Diamond Cross and later that evening attacked and secured Kaskaskia. We are here outside of the Marys River covered bridge outside of Chester, Illinois. Isn't this just awesome? It's so pretty. Built in 1854 in continuous service from 1854 to 1930, was originally part of a planked toll road between Bremen and Chester. All of the timber in the bridge is the original with the exceptions of the floor joists, roof, and siding. Acquired by the state of Illinois in 1936 for purposes of preservation and a picnic area, money for purchase of site was donated by Chester Chamber of Commerce. So I'm going to walk through this bridge just because it's here and I can. I just don't get the graffiti, you know. That I told you that before at another site of another covered bridge where people, you know, have to make their mark. I don't get it. But anyway, it's actually very cool inside here, temperature wise, but it's really, really neat. Of course, some of it's been replaced, they said, but some of it's original as well. And here we are at the other end. The road would have gone down there. And there's the St. Mary's River right there. And we're back to the other, looking at the other side of the bridge where we just came. Very, very cool. All right, y'all, we did the rest of Chester in this episode. We covered everything that was not Popeye the Sailor Man. So hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. There's a lot. Chester just has so much going on. We probably will have at least one more episode covering the rest of Randolph County. It's a small county with a lot of markers, but it's not got the most markers. I'll let you know when we get to that county. But stay tuned for the rest of Randolph County historical markers.